Just this morning, I was sitting in court, feeling tiny as my sister Bethany practically laughed right at me, saying I was worthless and deserved nothing from Mom's will, the inheritance. But then the judge looked at me, gave a little smile, and just like that, everything changed, handing me something worth a cool $1 million. My sister's face, oh my goodness, you should have seen it. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. It all started, I guess, when Mom passed away, just a few months ago. Still feels like yesterday sometimes. Mom was, well, she was Mom. A kind, quiet lady, always humming little tunes, always smelling faintly of turpentine and paint. She was an artist, not famous or anything, but she loved to paint, mostly landscapes and flowers. My sister, Bethany, and I were always so different. Bethany, she was always the golden child, you could say. Even when we were little kids, she was the one who got good grades, wore nice clothes, and had all the friends. I was more background noise, I guess. I loved Mom's art, but I was never really good at it myself, not like Bethany, who could draw perfect stick figures even when she was 5, or so everyone always said. After high school, Bethany went off to a big city, got a fancy job in finance. She always seemed so put together, so successful on the surface. Me, I stayed closer to home. I worked at the local library, mostly shelving books and helping people find what they needed. It wasn't glamorous, but I liked it, and it paid the bills. When Mom started getting older and a little bit forgetful, I was the one who was there, checking in on her every day, bringing her groceries, making sure she took her pills. Bethany would call once a week, maybe, sending flowers for birthdays. That was it. I never complained, never thought about it much. Mom and I, we had our quiet routine, our own kind of language. We'd sit in her little studio, me reading, her painting, the smell of oil paints filling the air. Those were good times, really good. So, when Mom died, it was a huge hole in my life. The funeral was small, just family and a few old friends. Bethany flew in, of course, dressed in black, looking very composed. She gave a little speech, talking about Mom's vibrant spirit and her legacy. I just stood there, trying not to cry, trying to hold on to the memory of Mom's gentle hand in mine. Then came the will reading. That was something else altogether. Mr. Silas, Mom's lawyer, a kind older man who always smelled of old books and peppermints, gathered us in his office. He cleared his throat and started reading. My stomach felt like it was doing flip-flops. I didn't expect much, but I hoped Mom had maybe left me her old art supplies or a few of her smaller paintings. Sentimental stuff. But no. Mr. Silas read, very slowly, that Mom had left all of her assets, properties, and the entirety of her estate to Bethany. He paused, then added a line, citing Bethany's greater needs and her capacity to manage such a substantial inheritance. I just sat there, mouth a little open, staring at Mr. Silas. Bethany, sitting across from me, had this tiny, almost invisible smirk on her face. Not a big one, just a little twitch at the corner of her mouth. I felt shocked, really. Hurt, yes, but mostly just shocked. Bethany had always done so well, had such a good job. I was the one who was just getting by. Greater needs, I thought. What even does that mean, really? Afterwards, Bethany gave me a pitying look. "Oh, Alara," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "I'm so sorry, sweetie. Mom loved you. But honestly, what would you even do with a big house or a fancy art collection, right? You're so simple." She patted my arm, a gesture that felt like a slap. I didn't say anything, just pulled my arm away. I accepted it, though. I tried to anyway. Mom chose. It hurt, but it was done. A few days later, Mr. Silas called me, just checking in. He said, "Alara, there's a small clause in your mother's will. It states, should any party feel unjustly treated, they may contest within 3 months, presenting any relevant information for the court's consideration." He paused, and his voice got a little softer. "Your mother was always a very fair woman, Alara. And very precise. I think you should look into it, truly." I was hesitant. Contesting a will? That felt so dramatic, so not like me. I just wanted to mourn Mom, not start a family feud. But then Bethany started. She'd call sometimes, pretending to check on me, but really just dropping little jabs. "Oh, Elara, are you still at that library job? It's so sweet, really, but you know, that tiny salary won't get you far." Or, "I'm having the studio renovated, finally. Mom's old paints were everywhere, such a mess. You wouldn't believe it." Each word felt like a tiny cut. One evening, she called, she said, her voice a little too sweet, "Mom always worried about your loser life, Elara. She just wanted to make sure her estate was handled by someone responsible." That was it. That hit a nerve, a raw, exposed nerve. Loser life. My hands clenched around the phone. Mom never called me that. Mom always told me my kindness was my strength, that my quiet work was just as important as anything grand. "Bethany," I said, my voice shaking a little, "Mom loved me, and she never thought I was a loser." Bethany laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Oh, Elara, please. Be realistic. You're just jealous, aren't you? You always were." Something snapped inside me. The humiliation, the unfairness, the quiet grief that had nowhere to go, it all bubbled up. "You know what, Bethany?" I said, my voice suddenly steady. "Maybe I will contest the will." I hung up before she could say another word. My heart was pounding, but it wasn't fear, not exactly. It was resolve. The next morning, I called Mr. Silas. "I want to contest the will," I told him. My voice was firm, surprising even myself. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Good, Elara. I was hoping you would. Your mother was a very thoughtful woman, and sometimes her thoughtfulness ran deeper than one might see on the surface." He paused, then said something that really made me wonder. "About a year ago, your mother gave me a sealed envelope. She said to me, 'Silas, just in case, hold on to this. If Elara ever feels she needs to contest my will, and only then, you open it and show her what's inside.' I haven't touched it, not until you made this decision." He looked at me over his spectacles. "It's your right to know, Elara. We'll set up a meeting next week." I felt a mix of nerves and a strange flicker of hope. What could be in that envelope? What was Mom hiding? The initial court date was set for 2 weeks later. Bethany, when she heard, called me back, absolutely furious. "You selfish little snake," she shrieked. "You'll get nothing, you hear me? Nothing." But I didn't hang up this time. I just listened, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I felt like I was doing the right thing. The first court appearance felt like walking into a different world, Everything was so formal, so serious. The air felt thick, heavy. I sat next to Mr. Silas, feeling my palms get sweaty. Across the aisle, Bethany was there, looking perfectly polished, with her own lawyer, a sharp, sleek woman named Ms. Caldwell. Miss Caldwell had a stare that could cut glass, I swear. She didn't waste any time. She stood up, tall and confident, and started talking about me like I wasn't even there. "Your Honor," she began, her voice crisp and clear, "we have here a frivolous claim by Ms. Elara Vance. My client, Ms. Bethany Vance, has always been the pillar of responsibility in their family, a successful businesswoman, while Ms. Elara here, well, she's had a less demanding career path." She practically sneered the words "less demanding." My cheeks burned. She went on, painting me as greedy, a failure, someone trying to take advantage of my sister's rightful inheritance. She made it sound like I was just after Mom's money because I couldn't make my own way. Every word felt like a punch to my gut. It was humiliating, truly. My small life, my quiet job, all laid bare and made to sound pathetic. Then Bethany spoke. She put on a performance, I tell you. She dabbed at her eyes with a delicate tissue, her voice wavering just enough to sound genuinely sad. "My mother, God rest her soul," she sniffled, "she always worried about Elara. Always. She just wanted to ensure her legacy was in capable hands. Elara, she's always wanted more. Always felt entitled to things she didn't earn. She twisted stories from our childhood, making me sound like a selfish, grasping sister. I wanted to stand up and shout, 'That's not true,' but Mr. Silas put a gentle hand on my arm, shaking his head. The judge, Judge Arden, a stern-looking woman with kind eyes, listened carefully, making notes. She didn't seem entirely convinced by my simple appeal, just based on what was said so far. It felt like I was losing badly. During a short recess, when everyone was milling about, grabbing water, Mr. Silas leaned over to me. He didn't say much, just gave me a subtle look, a kind of knowing glance that made me wonder what he was thinking. "Ilara," he murmured, his voice low so only I could hear, "your mother used to say something to me quite often, about her work. The true value of art is not in its price, but its story, Ilara. And sometimes, stories have secrets." He said it almost casually, like he was just reminiscing, but his eyes held a definite glint. He didn't explain what he meant, not really. I just felt confused. What was he talking about? Secrets? What kind of secrets? It was a what moment for sure. I kept thinking about it, turning it over in my head like a strange pebble. A few days later, Mr. Silas finally opened the sealed envelope Mom had given him. We were back in his office, just the two of us. He carefully slid it open with a letter opener. Inside, it wasn't a fancy legal document or a bank statement like I half expected. It was a small, old, plain sketch pad, its cover worn and faded, and tucked inside, a folded letter. The sketch pad was one of Mom's. I recognized it immediately. She always carried one, sketching things she saw. I felt a pang of nostalgia, remembering her sketching birds in the park or the lines of an old building. Mr. Silas handed me the letter first. It was Mom's handwriting, slightly shaky now from her later years, but unmistakably hers. "My dearest Ilara," it began. My eyes blurred a little. Mom never wrote me letters, not really. We talked mostly. "If you are reading this," the letter continued, "it means you have chosen to stand up for yourself, and for that, I am proud of you. My most valuable work, Ilara, is not in the grand paintings your sister has always admired, the ones she thinks are worth so much. It's in the sketches. These contain a different kind of legacy, not of gold, but of time and truth. Look carefully, my dear, at the sketches of our old house. There is a hidden meaning, a story waiting to be found." It didn't make much sense, not at first. A hidden meaning in sketches? It mentioned a specific sketch of our old house, the one we grew up in. I didn't quite get it yet, but the sketch pad felt significant. Like a clue in a treasure hunt. I clutched it, feeling its weight, its history. "We'll bring this to court, Ilara," Mr. Silas said, a small smile playing on his lips. It might just be what we need. Back in court, the next session was even more tense. Bethany's side was so confident, almost arrogant. Miss Caldwell strutted around, presenting more evidence of my supposed poor financial choices, things like old credit card statements and records of a small loan I took out years ago to fix my car. She blew them up to look like grand failures, making me feel even smaller, even more exposed. She made a big deal about my library salary, comparing it to Bethany's high-flying job. "A clear pattern of financial instability, Your Honor," she declared, which clearly illustrates why Ms. Vance Sr. felt her estate was safer in the hands of Ms. Bethany Vance. I just wanted to disappear, to shrink into my seat. Then Bethany herself got on the stand again. She looked directly at me this time, a smirk dancing on her lips. She twisted more stories, making our childhood sound like a constant battle where I was always trying to undermine her. "Ilara was always so jealous," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern, "always wanting what I had. She never understood the value of hard work, only ever wanted handouts." Then she leaned into the microphone, her voice clear and cutting. "Honestly, Your Honor, Ilara is utterly worthless. She always has been, and she always will be. She deserves nothing from Mom's hard-earned estate." The words hit me like a physical blow. Worthless. Utterly worthless. My eyes welled up with tears, hot and stinging. I squeezed my hands together under the table, trying to hold it in, trying to be strong, but the sting was too much. The judge looked sternly at Bethany, then at me. I felt like giving up right there, just telling Mr. Silas to stop, to let her have it all. What was the point, really? I felt so small, so defeated. It was my turn on the stand. My legs felt like jelly as I walked up there, every eye in the room on me. I still felt the sting of Bethany's words, utterly worthless. Mr. Silas gave me a reassuring nod as I sat down. He started gently, asking about Mom, about her art, about our relationship. I talked about how Mom loved to sketch, about the quiet afternoons in her studio, the smell of paint. Then he guided me to the sketch pad. I held it up, the old, faded cover feeling warm in my hands. My mother gave me this, I explained, my voice a little shaky at first, but then getting stronger. She always carried one. This one, it has drawings of our old house, where we grew up. Bethany, from her seat, let out a loud, scoffing laugh. Sketches, she practically shouted. What, is she trying to sell doodles now, Your Honor, to fund her lavish lifestyle? This is ridiculous. Ms. Caldwell looked smug, clearly thinking this was a desperate last-ditch effort. But Mr. Silas just looked calmly at me, then at the judge. Elara, he asked, can you tell the court about something specific your mother's letter alluded to regarding the sketches of your old house? I took a deep breath. Yes, I said, Mom's letter, it told me to look carefully at the sketches of the house. It talked about a hidden meaning, a story. And I found it after looking for days. There's a tiny, almost invisible mark in the corner of one particular sketch of Mom's old studio, a scratch really, like a secret code she'd made. I explained how it pointed to a loose floorboard in the corner of her studio, a place she always kept her paintbrushes, a spot no one would ever really notice. It was a subtle wait, what moment, I think, for everyone in the room. Bethany stopped laughing, her smirk fading a little, replaced by a flicker of confusion. Then, Mr. Silas stood up, and his voice, usually so calm, held a new, quiet power. Your Honor, he said, with Ms. Vance's permission and based on the explicit instructions left by her mother, we conducted a search of Ms. Vance Sr.'s former studio, specifically the area indicated by this very unique and personal code. He then turned to the court clerk, who had a large, plain manila envelope. We would like to present the true evidence in this case. The clerk handed him the envelope. Mr. Silas pulled out a stack of documents. These weren't sketches or sentimental letters. These were financial statements, bank records, and legal papers. My eyes widened, and I heard Bethany gasp from across the room. These documents, Your Honor, Mr. Silas announced, his voice ringing through the silent courtroom, were found hidden beneath a loose floorboard in Ms. Vance Sr.'s studio, precisely where the code in this sketch indicated. He laid them out, one by one. They prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that Ms. Bethany Vance has been secretly siphoning money from her mother's art sales accounts for years, systematically falsifying records to conceal her actions. Furthermore, they reveal a pattern of manipulation during Ms. Vance Sr.'s later, more confused years, culminating in Ms. Bethany Vance influencing her mother to change her will, overriding her true intentions. My heart pounded. Bethany's face had gone completely white, all color drained away. But it wasn't just those documents. Mr. Silas pulled out one last paper, an older, crinkled document. And here, Your Honor, he said, holding it up, is Ms. Vance Sr.'s original, true will, dated 5 years before her passing. It stipulates a fair and equal division of her estate between both her daughters, Elara and Bethany Vance, along with a heartfelt personal note from Ms. Vance Sr. herself. He read from Mom's note, his voice catching slightly. My dearest Elara, I fear Bethany's greed, and if ever she tries to cut you out, know that my love and your true inheritance are protected, hidden away, for you to find. Trust your heart, and Mr. Silas. The $1 million figure wasn't cash from some secret account I was getting. It was the total amount Bethany had stolen from Mom, now finally proven. The courtroom was absolutely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Judge Arden looked at the documents, then directly at Bethany, her gaze piercing. And then, in a voice that was calm but firm, she said, Good morning, Your Honor, to Mr. Silas, a clear acknowledgement of his skillful presentation and a stark, almost sarcastic, indictment of Bethany's deception. Bethany's face was a mask of pure horror and fury. She looked like she wanted to scream, to lash out, but no sound came. The judge called a short recess, the air crackling with unspoken tension. When court resumed, Judge Arden spoke with a gravity that made everyone listen. She announced that Bethany's actions constituted not only fraud but also elder abuse. The fabricated will was overturned. The stolen money, she declared, was to be repaid to Mom's estate immediately and then divided exactly as Mom had intended in her original, untainted will. Bethany was facing serious legal repercussions, a police investigation, and likely criminal charges for her actions. She just sat there, glaring at me, then slowly, she broke down. Not in remorse, not in tears of regret, but in a raw, furious sob of a spoiled child who had finally been caught. I just sat there, watching her, a mix of sadness, vindication, and an overwhelming wave of relief washing over me. The truth finally was out. Weeks went by, and the legal dust slowly settled. The estate was sorted, the money Bethany had siphoned away was recovered, and everything was divided as Mom had truly wanted. I inherited a substantial sum, enough to buy a small studio space of my own, a place where I could finally pursue my own quiet passion, my own art, something Mom had always gently encouraged. Bethany, on the other hand, faced the full force of the law. She lost everything, not just the money, but her job, her reputation, everything she had built on lies. She tried to appeal, to fight, but the evidence was overwhelming. Mr. Silas met with me one last time, a gentle smile on his face. "Your mother," he said, "she always believed in you, Alara. Always knew you had a quiet strength. She knew Bethany would try something like this, and she made sure you would have the means to fight back and win." The deep humiliation I had felt for so long, the sting of being called worthless, it was gone now, replaced by a quiet strength, a sense of peace. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about Mom's love, her unwavering fairness, and the truth finally, gloriously coming out. It was about standing up for myself, even when I felt so small, so invisible. I often think about Mom now, and I finally understand her wisdom, that real value isn't always what you see on the surface, or what other people tell you it is. Sometimes, it's hidden deep down, waiting for you to find it, to understand its true story. And I finally feel free. This whole journey, it just showed me that sometimes, the biggest revenge isn't about hurting someone else, you know? It's just living your own truth, loud and clear, and letting everything else fall into place. It's about being brave enough to uncover what was always there.